Instead of talking about the elephant in the room, we generally talk about the bomb in the room. Saying that when we are afraid of something blowing up in our face, we would call that a bomb. And from our perspective in DEI, problems usually happen in 5 areas: people, and then notice how the people has a fire, right? We start with people because people start organizations, right? People, I think ProSci says that change management is the people side of change. Well, absolutely. When we say that DEI is the people side of success, because organizations are built to succeed, people work to thrive. So they have to also thrive at work in order to keep on working, right? Otherwise, we go through work and we're like, oh crap, I can't wait for Friday, or I can't wait till this is over. And we still have this like mentality that we're only given our bare minimum to just get through it. And this is how we start to create these other problem areas. So people problems, process problems, policy problems, production problems, and then profit problems. So we know mistrust both starts these chain reactions and keeps these chain reactions going. But the interesting piece here, as we look at those 10 job aspects laid across this chain here, now imagine you have these fires in your organization. You have this chain reaction where you come into work and you're supposed to have critical behaviors and your mindset's supposed to be on point, but you can't even get that settled because of what's happening in the world, or because you're afraid somebody someone's going to be prejudiced towards you, or implicit bias inside your organization is going to prevent you from succeeding. So then start thinking about the processes. Who do you actually talk to? Who do you avoid? The amount of times that people work around each other just to avoid having conversations is insane to me. And not even insane, it's really adaptive, right? That we adapt when something goes wrong, we adapt to work around it, but we're not really addressing the issues. And you can see how the chain continues, and it's going to affect our processes. It's going to affect everything going down to the profit area. And profit shows up for us in 2 ways. One, on the individual level, that most of us, if we cannot see ourselves making a profit, like making a proper income in an organization, we start investing our time elsewhere to find a better job, find a better opportunity. So it's interesting to think about the 10 job aspects. We say the more of those that change, the more saturated somebody is in change, or the more resistant they will be to change. However, there are people who are willing to jump ship and go to a complete other organization. That means all 10 of those things may change because they rather have a culture of equity. People are not leaving companies, they're leaving cultures, they're leaving managers, they're leaving the status quo. So it's important that we want to retain folks, and we really want to build that team. We have to be building that trust and building the equity inside of our organization. Type equity if you're with me right now, right? If you're getting fired up like me too, type equity in the chat. And so even though we communicate in this chain reaction, it really happens more in a cyclical process. As we talk about a culture of inequity, it's interesting, people are trying to pass the bomb around, pass the blame around. People are literally trying to delegate DEI to HR and say HR is going to take care of it. So no, this goes way beyond HR. Every single one of us in the organization is impacting how safe people feel around us, how included people feel around us, how much they trust us. Each and every one of us is impacting us. It means each and every one of us is responsible for putting out these fires. And we might have different levels of influence in that, for sure. That's why I want to focus your attention on where we have influence. I'm absolutely with you. I just want this is the kind of same talk we get to everybody, that you can't delegate or opt out of DEI. If you do, then you are part of fueling more fires versus fueling forward progress. And as we're having these conversations, it's important that we're still asking that question of what gets in the way. And again, the simplest version we'll call it is mistrust. And we'll pause it here because we're going to circle back, because I want to be able to show you how you can start to create trust and build trust. But we also have to talk about how we do the how. All right, how we do the how is just as important about the how that we're trying to do, right? And the reason I say that is because a lot of times right now, folks are striving to aim to get more equity, but they're doing it in ways that crush equity for others. That's what I'm saying, the how for the how. And we're all about pursuing equity. We want to do equity without stigma, equity without the violence and without the polarization. Otherwise, we're literally creating the same problem again. And this is not everybody shares this opinion in the DEI space, but that's at least how we like to approach our work, to make sure that we can answer this question, which is a valid question. When somebody asks us in the equitable portion, what's in it for me? If equity is about fairness, then this is a fair question. And not everybody's going to do it because they're altruistic. Yeah, we can make a business case and that's going to get some folks to get in. Sometimes it has to get really personal for the individual for them to ever want to do anything about DI. So we know that folks are on the whole adoption spectrum, so to speak. And how do we get them to adopt change in a way that, knowing, like, even before we started talking about DEI, they already said there's innovators all the way to laggards. And that was already before we started talking DEI. How do we expect it to change so quickly all of a sudden? We don't expect that. This is why when we do our work, we call it micro progressions. How are we taking steps on a regular basis that allow people to stay in the accomplishment zone, stay in the zone where they're seeing change, they're seeing their influence make a difference, that starts to motivate them to actually have a better experience with DEI and actually see the progress in their organization.